Hey weirdies. Welcome back to my channel. Well, my growing, developing channel. And today I have a very special video for you today. I'm going to be doing a June reading wrap up, which is crazy to me because I, for so long, have said I am not a reader. I don't have time to read. And yet, in the month of June, I managed to read 8 books. And guess what? Only one of those books I just listened to on audiobook. All the rest I actually read either a physical book or on my Kindle. And honestly, I'm just so proud. Like I said, I don't consider myself a reader. I'm slow, but I'm starting to learn that I'm just kind of average. Like I think when you see people reading like 100 some pages an hour, I think those are just people that are, just gifted in that department. I'm not. I can probably read maybe 50 pages in an hour, and that's okay. That's okay. So I'm going to be taking you through the 8 books that I read, my thoughts, what I rated it. I've wanted to do BookTube, or I got into BookTube right before I got pregnant with Wade, and so I'm very excited to do this because I always wanted to do a video like this, but I was like, I don't have time to read. I'm a slow reader. Yeah, so many excuses, but now I'm doing it. So let's get started. First book I read and completed in the month of June was Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. And the reason I even wanted to read this book is I saw it recommended on Haley Pham's channel, which you're going to see a lot of that in this video, a lot of books that Haley brought me to. But this one in particular caught my attention because it was about a accidental pregnancy. And if you know me, you know that I am obsessed with pregnancy, motherhood, anything like that. Even before I had kids, I just loved that topic. And so it started off with that. This was kind of, I think this was my first just little romance novel. I came in with low expectations because I just considered myself not a romance person. I think romance can be so cheesy, but this book was so good. So the premise of the book is Eve, the main character, she accidentally gets pregnant after a one night stand with a hot bartender. And the book takes you through each trimester of her pregnancy and just not necessarily like what she's doing or anything like that. It's more so the development that she's getting from being pregnant. Like, not her own like physical development, but just her growth. I don't want to, like, I can't really even say it's a coming of age novel because I feel like you have to be a teen to come of age or like a kid or whatever. I don't know the technicalities of it, but in my mind, it kind of feels like a coming of age novel because before she gets pregnant, she's kind of aimless. She doesn't really know what she wants in life. She takes a job that she really doesn't particularly want. It is within the field that she likes, but it's not the dream job. And then she gets pregnant, and all of a sudden, she's like, oh, I think I know what I want out of life, and I want to make sure that my child sees that, I'm passionate about life and I want to do all these things for my kid. And so I really liked looking at Eve's journey. I also love Eve. I think she's one of my favorite characters so far that I've read in a book. She was just so witty, and I loved hearing her thoughts. And she actually doesn't, which this is a spoiler, she actually doesn't end up with the person that got her pregnant because he has a girlfriend. But Shep, which is Eve's best friend's older brother, she's known Shep her whole life because she's been around her sister or his sister quite a lot. And so Shep ends up like really stepping up, just like out of the kindness of his heart. Not even like, at the beginning, not even in an effort to like get with her, just because it was simply because he wanted to be there for her. And of course, a romance ensues. It's slow burn, very, very much so. Shep is just a dream. He's just a dream male character. Um, just the kindest, sweetest guy, and I really liked him. I gave this book 5 stars, which is crazy because that's like the first book I read this month. But I gave it 5 stars just because it resonated with me so much. And the only critique I have, which barely any critique, is that Shep's character development wasn't where I wanted it to be. Like, he kind of felt like he existed solely for Eve. But other than that, like, it was such a thought-provoking novel. Cara Bastone's writing really did wonders at capturing what it's like when you're about to give birth to a new human being. Like, here's a quote that I have: "I'm just a little raw, and who wouldn't be? I've been blinked into existence, grown and protected by those who love me. And then that little nugget Miriam cracked open my shell and brought me to my new life." I'm mush on the floor. I'm mush on the floor. So I loved it, 5 stars. More reasons I loved it is because coming of age, pregnancy, slow burn romance, not even like a spicy romance at all. Like, there's only one spicy, and even then it's like very tastefully done and not like super graphic. So I like that. And I think if you like motherhood and pregnancy like me, if you don't mind the accidental pregnancy trope, which apparently people don't like, or if you like childhood friends to lovers, cinnamon roll man, which I'm learning these book terms, apparently Shep is a cinnamon roll man, then you should read this book. Next up on the June wrap up is Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. Now, funny story, this book was actually already on my TBR, my to be read list, prior to me watching that video with Haley. I just wanted to read Ready or Not first because I was like, oh, I feel like this would really like get me into romance because of the pregnancy trope. And it didn't disappoint, obviously. So I decided to go ahead and I actually have the book, Promise Me Sunshine. And once again, this solidifies that I just love her writing. So far, she's in the running to be my favorite author. I've only read 2 of her books, but yeah. This story follows Lenny, whose best friend and roommate has just recently passed away, and she's kind of like lost in the sauce of grief. She doesn't really like staying at her apartment where they shared, so she spends all night on the ferry or going to the club. She only goes back if she needs to, like for clothes and stuff. And in terms of jobs, she takes short-term nanny gigs. So she ends up taking a short-term weekend nanny gig for this woman named Reese. She's a single mom to I think she's 7 or 8. Her daughter, whose name is Ainsley. So Lenny goes and is a day nanny for the weekend because she has someone that came in overnight to stay with Ainsley. And Ainsley just really takes a liking to her. In nannying for Reese, she gets to meet Reese's brother, who is Miles. And he's not the most sociable. I'm not saying he's like socially awkward. He just doesn't know how to talk to people, like, and not be rude. And he definitely judges a book by its cover and thinks that, Lenny, because she has like a disheveled look apparently, he's just like assumes she's on drugs, and like tells Reese like, I can't believe you're having this woman in your house taking care of Ainsley, and she just looks like she's strung out. And then one day, like, Lenny drops her bag and her belongings come out on the floor, and in her belongings is a book about grief. And Miles sees it and he's like, oh, like, she's not on drugs, she's going through something. And so something within him sparks the urge to just want to help her through her grief journey, because he had been through a tragedy 10 years prior. And the book just kind of follows their slow burn friendship to eventual romance. And even though I didn't like this book as much as Ready or Not, it didn't resonate with me, it was still a very good book because the messages about grief and how it's not a linear process in quote unquote getting over it is astounding. Cara Bastone, her writing, great. And it just has a lot of good quotes about like the different emotions you might experience and what it's like in the aftermath and how you may not fully get over it, but you still do have to go on and live life. The person would probably want you to go on and live life. So I gave this book 4 stars. And like I said, still a great book. 4 is still a high rating. It's just didn't resonate with me as much. But I still enjoyed it. And it's very introspective. And I liked both the grief plot and the romance plot. I think the reason I even gave it a 4 is because like I think the romance was a little bit more of a slow burn, like a slow burn than I would have liked. But I don't know, maybe I'm just shallow. Anyway, I do want to read this quote from that book, which is, I'm uncontainable. I've just cracked the code. How to live a perfect existence. Just embrace it all. Every lovely, excruciating color. And I think that is such a great metaphor for life. Like, in order to live, you have to not only experience the good, but you also have to experience the bad and just learn how to live with it and move forward and not unpack your bags and stay in the sadness. And I think the book kind of really does a great job at giving that message. So read this book. I will say, because it does have to do with grief and loss, read at your own caution. Like, if you've just experienced loss or you're not over a loss, like, maybe it will be triggering, but I don't, think it would be too much. I think maybe it'll be uplifting. But like I said, you better than you, so use caution when reading the book. Next, I read Beach Read by Miss Emily Henry. Now, if you don't know, Emily Henry is like that girl in the book world. Like, that girl, that romance author. Like, you hear romance, you think, I feel like the number one person to bring up is Emily Henry. I did read an Emily Henry book earlier this year called Happy Place. Thoroughly enjoyed that book. It was so good. Actually, and that made me think I lied. That Ready or Not was not my first romance book. It was Happy Place, and I loved Happy Place. But this book, not bad, but it just wasn't like amazing. So Haley Pham, go figure, she highly regards this book, right? This is like a pivotal book. She's actually in the process of releasing her own romance novel next year, and like, I'm pretty sure she credits this book for even giving her the inspiration to write her own. I hear all the girls talking about this book and Emily Henry, period. And I was like, let me try it. And it's summertime, like beach read, hello, I want some summer vibes. This did not deliver, okay? I'm not saying it was a bad book, not a bad story. I could see why people like the story. It just was not my favorite romance story. So the premise is January is the main character. Her father has just recently passed away. And with his death came out some family secrets that she's trying to work through. But she's also a romance novelist. But she has writer's block. So in order to get out of her writer's block and make some money, because she's broke, she goes to her dad's lake house, not only to like get things moved out and sell some stuff so that they can sell the lake house, but also so she has like a quiet place to just think and write. When she gets there, she notices her neighbor is our college rival, Augustus Everett, and she's a romance novelist. He writes literary fiction. In college, he would say like her, romance is lame. Like, it's so simple-minded, basically. And so she plans probably to avoid him all summer, but she ends up like seeing him at a bookstore. They have some banter or whatever. Then they decide, oh, you're having writer's block, I'm having writer's block. Let's create a challenge. How about you, Augustus, write romance, and me, January, I write literary fiction. And so they make that bet. And then they also make it to where they do research excursions. So, like, January will take Augustus on, like, romantic things so he can understand romance, I guess, so he can better be able to write it. And then Augustus takes her to interview ex-cult members. And not a slow burn romance, definitely just a regular romance ensues. But like I said, not for me, just because I really didn't care about their romance, honestly. They weren't even really rivals. It was kind of a misunderstanding. It was one of those things where Augustus, kind of like Miles in Promising Sunshine, he just doesn't know how to talk to people without being rude. So she assumed that he didn't like her, when in fact he had read all her books. And they slowly find that out about each other, and a romance grows within them. But like I said, I didn't really care for their romance, to be honest. I was more interested, honestly. I would have been more interested if we explored the family secrets that came out after January's dad died, or if we explored more about the ex-cult members and had the subplot of romance. I would have enjoyed that more. Plus, what's misleading to me is this is beach read, and this was not set. I mean, I guess it was at a beach. It was a lake house, but it was in Michigan. And when I'm thinking of beach, I'm not thinking of Michigan. I'm thinking of somewhere tropical, or California, or Florida, or Hawaii, something like that. Not Michigan at a lake, okay? And even then, like, maybe I missed it, but there really wasn't a lot of talk about the setting of it being at a lake. There was a lot of talk about the house, the lake house, but not the actual lake. So, kind of misleading. Also, misleading, not misreading. Also, I don't think I like the meta of it. Like, do I really want to read about authors writing books? I don't know. I'm not gonna fully like cast it away and never read anything like that again. But it is kind of like, I don't know. So 3.5 stars for that. I see why the girlies like it. It just was not my favorite Emily Henry book, and I really honestly probably need to read the actual Emily Henry book I wanted to read initially before I even read Happy Place, which is Funny Story. So yeah, eventually I'll read that. But 2 Emily Henry books I've read so far, both decent. One really good, but this one, okay. All right, next book I read was Mary Jane by Jessica Anya Blau. This book is something that I found through Haley's channel. Haley's channel, once again, she said this was like such a great summer read. And after reading Beach Read and not getting a summer feel, I was like, let me try it. And it's set in the 70s, so it follows Mary Jane, who's a 14-year-old in the summer in the 70s, nannying another nanny for this family. This couple, the Cones, she nannies for their 5-year-old daughter, Izzy, and like they're kind of an eccentric couple, I guess, by the 70s standard. Like the husband's a therapist, and the wife, I don't know what she does honestly, but she walks around with no bra on under her shirt, which I guess is like woo back then. But to me, this book was very easy to read, I will say. It was just very mundane, very much a snapshot of Mary Jane's life at the time. Nothing wrong with it. Definitely gave me more of a summer vibe than Beach Read. I will give it that. Even though it is set in Baltimore for much of the book, they do go to the beach, and I was like, oh my god, I'm feeling the summer. I'm feeling the summery. But the reason why I'm giving this book 3 stars is because it was such, like, when I say it was so mundane, it was so mundane. And I think I walked into the book expecting like drama, which maybe that's me. Maybe I'm toxic, but there's really no big conflict in the book. No lead up to any big conflict, in my opinion. You might think differently if you read the book. It was just literally watching this girl change, like her perspective on life in this book, because she's with this family who's complete opposite of her own family. Her mom is a stay-at-home mom, cooks dinner every night, cleans, like really like the pinnacle homemaker. And then her dad like ignores her. Yeah. And so she's used to that life, and then she goes over here, have so much freedom, and just kind of also bringing structure to the home, because they don't really feed their 5-year-old daughter any good food. So like Mary Jane has learned from her mom a lot of recipes, and so she cooks dinner for them, lunches, breakfasts, which I need to try that birds in a nest, because they made that sound amazing. Yeah, and then like the therapist is working with like this rock star who is a drug addict, and then his wife is a ex-child star. But really, he's working with the drug addict, so they're staying at their house for the summer. Mary Jane doesn't tell her parents that they have a drug addict in the house. And Mary Jane's parents even let her go to the beach with them for a week. Like, it's the 70s. I don't know. Maybe that was okay back then. The only reason I give it 3 stars, like I said, was not like the plot I was looking for. But I think there were some good messages about growing up and being a young girl. I think this is a great book to read with your daughter, because it does give a lot of like insight into like a young girl's mind and thoughts maybe. And I think it's a good way to have open dialogue. It's not a graphic novel at all. It's very plain. I mean, there are some adult themes, but it's not like in a way where it's just distasteful. It's a great conversation starter, a great way to have open dialogue about, growing up as a teen. It's a very pivotal age around that time. Like, she's 14, so it's a very pivotal time. And I think her going, experiencing that summer at that time was great for her to like realize or get to know herself, basically. So 3 stars. I do want to share this quote because it did have a lot of good quotes in it. I will give it that. It said, "I was grieving the fact that this wonderful summer was behind me, and the only souvenirs I had were the thoughts in my head." And it just makes me think of that song "Crave" by Paramore, which is probably one of my top 5 favorite Paramore songs, and how it's, you're in a moment, but you don't want to lose memory of that good moment. And I think that's what that quote encapsulates for me. Encapsulated, I don't know if I'm using that word right. And we've all had great times, great summers like the one she's talking about. And I think that quote can really resonate with people in terms of like wanting to hold on to the good times. So 3 stars for Mary Jane. Not a good book, but also not a bad book. So, we'll take it. Next we have The Hunger Games, because why not? So me and Wade actually watched Hunger Games a couple weeks ago. I hadn't watched it in a while. And after I watched it, I was like, I would like to read that to learn more about the politics and characters. And plus, Suzanne Collins just came out with 2 prequels to this series, like in the last couple years. One of them came out this year, and then the other one came out, I think, a couple years ago. And I'm like, I want to learn more about these characters, and I also want to read these prequels because I keep hearing really good things about them. And if I'm being real, I think what she's doing with the prequels is what I would like to see in the Harry Potter series. I love to get prequels about Snape and Harry's parents and all the professors that were in Hogwarts, I guess in the 70s or something. I would love to get that perspective. But anyway, read Hunger Games. If you've seen the movie, you've seen the movie. But if you don't know what the Hunger Games is it follows Katniss Everdeen, who is living in a future dystopian America where it's no longer states, it's divided into districts. She's in District 12, which is the poorest district. And every year they have what's called the Hunger Games, where they pick 2 kids from 12 to 18, a boy and a girl, through a lottery system to go to this arena and fight to be the last one standing. Yes, it's kids killing kids or just dying of natural causes because they are out in different terrains each year. So Katniss takes her sister's place because they pull her sister Primrose's um, name. Primrose is only 12, and so Katniss loves her sister more than she probably loves herself, and she's like, I'm gonna go for her. So she and Peeta go to the games, and people like to downplay District 12, but they were really giving people a run for their money by being actually decent District 12 contenders. So that's Hunger Games. I gave this book 4 stars because it really was better than the movie, and it gave me a lot more insight into the characters and also just how the how Panem works in the Capitol and all that. In the movies, I like Cinna. I still like Cinna in the books and in the book. And in the movies, I really didn't have any opinions either way towards Haymitch, but in the book, it made me kind of think of Haymitch in a different way. I didn't really realize he was the only victor for District 12. And, all these districts have probably lots of victors, but he's the only one. And so he has to be a mentor to all these District 12 kids over the years since he's won and see them all die. And so I'm like, I can see why he drinks all the time, that's heavy. And Peeta apparently is not like some incapable, lame boy. He's actually very hunky and brawny, I guess. And the only reason why he's probably like seen as lame, maybe, or incapable is because his mom hates him. I don't know why she hates him. Maybe I'll find out more because it is my goal to read all the Hunger Games books by the end of the year. So maybe I'll find out more about that. But yeah, his mom hates him. I don't know why, but she treats him like trash. But yeah, Hunger Games, good read. Gave it 4 stars. We'll continue with Catching Fire in July. Next book I read. This book. It's crazy. It's very thought-provoking. It's called If Cats Disappeared from the World. It is by, and I might be saying this wrong, Genki Karamura or Genki Karamura. It is Japanese literature. So this is a Japanese author. It was translated into English for me to be able to read. Okay, so I first saw this book at a Barnes and Noble in like a couple months ago. Caught my eye because the cover was simple and cute, and the title was interesting. Like, where is this going? I read the back of it and I was like, interesting premise. So basically, it's about this man who finds out he has cancer. He's a postman. And I say the postman because we don't ever find out his name in the book. He's just the postman. And so he finds out he has 6 months to live because he has cancer. And then one day he's visited by the devil. And the devil looks just like him, just more flashier, probably like the person he wants to be. He calls him Aloha because he just appears every time in these different Hawaiian shirts. And so he gets visited by the devil, and the devil's like, oh, actually, you're gonna die tomorrow. And of course, the postman's like, what? No, I don't want to die. And so he makes a deal with the devil to where, like, if he makes one thing disappear from the world each day, then for each thing he makes disappear, he'll give him 1 more day of life. So of course, the postman's like, yes, I can do that. I can make things disappear. But he quickly realizes, like, everything he makes disappear has its place in the world. Makes clocks disappear, phones, movies, and then it gets to the end where it's like, are you gonna make cats disappear or are you gonna die? So I give this book 4.5 stars. I really debated on what rating I was gonna give it because there's something that was missing, and I think what was missing, and this is a spoiler, is I wish I would have seen him reconcile with his dad, but that's a personal thing. It's not anything to the discredit of the author. I think it's potentially like a 5-star read for anybody, but reading the book felt honestly like I was watching anime, like I was hearing anime voice actors in my head. Maybe it's a Japanese culture thing to where, like, that's just how they write, and TV, movies, and books. I liked it. It was heartwarming. Felt very much like Studio Ghibli, like I was watching a Studio Ghibli film. Um, it was, even though it's a heavy topic, like the main character is gonna die. It was very warm, very thought provoking, and also kind of funny, and I like that. And it kind of just made me think about my own mortality, which I think about a lot lately. It's a whole nother story. And I also think it makes me think about me. Like, I'm a mom, and so, like, thinking about, like, how he thinks of his mom, I'm like, I hope my sons think of me in high regard as he does with his mom, who unfortunately passed away 4 years earlier. And so, very, like, very much makes you think. It's all about, like, cherishing the time you have here on earth, loving the little things, connections with people, like making sure you have good, strong connections with people. There was a moment where, like, he made phones disappear, but before he did, the devil was like, I'll let you make one more phone call. And he was going through the list of people in his head. I was like, oh my God, like, who would I spend my last phone call on? That's what he was thinking. And I'm thinking, like, who would I spend my last phone call on if that happened to me? 4.5 stars. Totally recommend. It makes me want to read more Japanese literature, honestly. There's a book called Before the Coffee Gets Cold that I want to read that also has a cat on the cover. I'm going to give that one a chance now because, oh my God, I love it. I love that little short, thought-provoking story. Like, I really do. And the quote I have for this book is, I realize it's strange to use the word regret about things that haven't happened yet. And it's like that, like, crazy because, yeah, how can you regret what hasn't happened? I think when you get to the end of your life, I don't think you're like mourning dying. You're mourning like, dang, I didn't get to do a lot of things. You know what I mean? And that's basically what this book is about. So, highly, highly, highly recommend. It may make you cry. I almost did, but I read the ending while in the car on the way home from Houston, and it was okay. It was fine, but great book, honestly. The last book I just actually read for real and not listened to was The Forest by Abby Jimenez. It's very, very short. It's less than 100 pages, and I read it on Kindle because I think it's only available on Kindle. I picked it up just so I can have another book to read to finish out the month, and it was short. Was not expecting it to be such a good book. I read it just for the summer by Abby Jimenez in May, and I actually finished it because it took me forever to finish. But I actually liked The Forest better than I liked Just for the Summer. So this book is about Charlotte and Seth, who are apartment neighbors. I guess it's like those regular apartment buildings where it's actual buildings instead of just a tower like a hotel. And so they're apartment neighbors. And they walk outside one day and their stairs are missing. Yeah, apparently like the construction workers got something wrong in their plans and took off the wrong stairs on the wrong apartment. So property manager comes, he's like, I'm sorry guys, I can't get you anybody until Monday. I think this happens on a Friday. So they're forced to stay in all weekend. And so we learned that Seth recently, like literally the day the stairs got removed, his divorce was final. And we learned that Charlotte has a very serious stalker that's been stalking her for 2 years, and so she's kind of like very hesitant with people and men, and also just like putting down roots in any place whatsoever because she's like, he's gonna eventually find you, so no need in unpacking boxes and stuff. And but something about Seth just kind of like makes him seem warm, and so they have like this weekend of friendship, like a friendship develops, and then he like start to like each other. But she has a stalker, and so she's kind of like standoffish about it. She also doesn't want to bring him into her situation, which is understandable. I really liked it. I really wish it was longer. I would have read this as a longer book, but I appreciated it. It was a good little read. I think some people have said this feels insta-lovey. I really didn't think so. I think it was just like kind of like a natural progression to, going on a date. sometimes you just like really have a crush on someone, and then like when you are just around them all the time, like for the amount of time they were around each other, like yeah, it's gonna progress pretty quickly. But her friend Izzy and then his friend Gabe, they felt insta lovey. They got together real quick. So I gave this book 4 stars, which is higher than Just for the Summer. I gave Just for the Summer 3.5. So Abby, like make this into a book, girl. Make this into a real book. I wanna read more about Charlotte and Seth, please. Last book I read, which I didn't read, I listened to over the course of the month, was the last book in the Housemaid series, which was The Housemaid is Watching by Frida McFadden. I've listened to the first 2 Housemaid series books, right? Um, Housemaid was good. It was very much like, did not see that twist coming. But also the twist felt like Gone Girl. So I was like, cool twist on another twist. The second book was bleh up until the end. But this book was good. Like I gave it 4 stars. It was mundane at first, but like I think Frida did a real good job at like planting things for the end. And I love that. I really and truly do. Like it was such a good conclusion. So Millie, this follows Millie, our girl, our main character, and it's 10 years since the last book, over 10 years actually, and she's married to Enzo, and they have 2 kids, a boy and a girl, Ada and Nico. Ada's 11, Nico's 9, and they're moving. They're moving out of the big city into, I guess, the suburbs, into a very nice house that they can't really afford. They're like basically house poor, but they want to give their kids a good life. So they moved to this place. They got it for cheap, actually, which they didn't know why, but they're like, sweet, a house. So they move in and they notice there's something weird about her neighbor. Not, her neighbor, or their neighbor, I'm sorry. I actually forgot their names because I don't care about them because they're lame. But there's something weird about their neighbors. There's a couple with no kids. The wife is kind of like rude and condescending and like she thinks she's better than them. And the husband feels like, it seems like he's held hostage by the wife. Like he doesn't really say much or do much. And I'm gonna leave it at that for them because yeah, I don't want to give it away. But I gave this book 4 stars just because not only was this like just a regular like thriller and a regular like Frida McFadden novel, but it's like obviously throughout the books there's a theme of classism and like rich versus poor, but also in this book with Millie having kids, it was like, be careful what you do around your kids. Be careful what you say around your kids because they do listen and it can like fuel their actions. That's all I'm gonna say. It ended up being kind of a creepy, gross twist. Not super gross, but just like I felt icky. But it doesn't take away from the book being 4 stars. Like Frida did a big one. I honestly don't want another housemaid book. I think we should just leave it right there. Leave it on a high note and call it a day. Oh my gosh. That's it for my June wrap up. I can't believe I read literally read words on a page, 7 books. Wild. Here I was thinking I'm a slow reader. I think going forward when I'm reading, if I can manage to read 1 book a week, so like 4, maybe 5 books a month, I'll be happy. I feel like this is like me really pushing it. A, I had 2 short books in there, and B, it's summertime, so I have a little more time on my hands. So going forward, like in the school year, I think it's feasible for me to do 4, maybe 5 books a month, and still listen to 1 book just over time. So I'm excited. I'm like, this is great. I love it. I love the world of reading. I've always wanted to get into reading, but high school kind of turned me off to it. So now I'm trying to regain that interest. I'll say more about that later, but Thanks for watching. I hope you found maybe a recommendation or reconsidered a book you kind of were like, no, I'm not reading that. And more to come. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.